first and foremost, I truly appreciate you. And if you're not on mute, I'm just going to ask you to go on mute so that we won't have any background noise. And then when we get to the Q&A, you can unmute. So if I can ask you to please go on mute. Thank you. And again, thank you so much for joining. I truly appreciate you. This is, I just went a little bit too far here. This is the second masterclass of Navigating Life Stages, Your Roadmap to Personal Growth. And it's really about empowering women in midlife transition and beyond. And I'm your host, Eva Kennedy. Some of you know me, some of you may not, but I'm just going to tell you really quickly about myself so we can just kind of keep it moving. First and foremost, I'm a certified life coach. I did not set out to be a life coach. I was seeking my life purpose, and I ended up in coaching school, and that was the beginning of my transformational journey. I worked at Allstate Insurance Company for 29 years, and after being diagnosed with breast cancer and having a reoccurrence within 5 years, I knew it was time for me to leave that job. And after I left the job, I gave myself permission to take 5 years off because I didn't set out to retire. I just knew it was time for me to leave that job. And gave myself permission to take 5 years off. And after that, I was stuck. I didn't know what to do with the rest of my life. I started seeking my life purpose. I knew there was more to my life because I had this yearning in my belly, but I had no idea how to proceed. I didn't know anything about midlife transition at the point, and I didn't have any support as to how to navigate midlife transition, which is why I'm so excited and think that this is such a powerful, pivotal point in our lives. But I ended up in coaching school. But one of the things that I did is I set myself down because, again, I was seeking my life purpose. I was seeking meaning. I wanted fulfillment, had no idea what that looked like. But I set myself down and I identified, prioritized, and defined my top 5 values. And that was my compass. So I knew, regardless of where I was going or what was ahead of me in life, it had to satisfy those top 5 values. And I'll share with you my top 5. I'll share with you my top 2 in order of priority. And that's my relationship with God and helping other people. In this picture here of me, you can see Chicago in the background here, and it's along the lakefront. I jogged the lakefront, especially at that particular time, and I would pray and cry and ask God to show me my life purpose. And that's how I ended up in coaching school. That's how I ended up being a coach. And what was so interesting, although I'd had a successful career during this phase of my life, which I know now was midlife transition, everything that I had accomplished before was insignificant. I had lost my confidence. I was emotional. And what I realized is that I'd become an emotional prisoner holding myself hostage. So I navigated through midlife transition, became a life coach, and I knew that I wanted to work with women, empowering them so that they could pursue the life that they desire. So that's kind of my story. Moving right along. And this is the second masterclass. In the first masterclass, we covered the 4 adult life stages and really focusing on how personal growth is a lifelong journey, regardless of age. Life is a process of evolution. It's an evolving journey. And during the masterclass 1, I emphasized the power that we have as individuals to shape our own lives, regardless of where we are in our journey. And I think one point is worth mentioning, that age does not define personal growth, because I know of women, and some of you probably know some as well, who feel like, well, I'm too old. I've passed my time. It's too late. And that's why I just want to make sure that I just stated right out front, age does not define personal growth. So just a real quick recap of the 4 primary stages of adult life. There's the young adult transition, and I refer to this stage as independence. This is the stage where you're out of college or you moved out of your parents' home, and now you're on your own. You're starting to make decisions and choices for yourself. You're starting to build your own life. This is the point where you start to take responsibility for your life. Making commitments, I like to refer to that stage as the grind, because now you're focusing on that career. Maybe even you've gotten married and you're focusing on establishing yourself in the community. And I call it the grind because some people during this stage of making commitments, they want to be all things to all people. And that's why I call it the grind. Midlife transition is when I discovered Eva Kennedy. This is the phase where I refer to, and this is what we're going to talk about tonight, is the awakening. This is where now you've moved beyond young adult transition and making commitments. And now you're at that point, midlife transition, where it's a rediscovery phase. Now you're at that phase in your life where you're focusing on yourself. Because young adult and making a commitment, coming up in life, you were told you either had to get a job or go to school, right? And then you focused on that career. And now in midlife transition, you start to discover yourself. And then there's leaving a legacy. I like to call this the acceptance phase. It's where you accept your strengths and your weaknesses. You accept who you are. You're at that point in your life where you have nothing to prove to anybody. So today, again, our focus is on midlife transition. Now I have to ask a question. I'm going to ask you to put this in the chat. How many of you had never heard of this state of midlife transition before tonight? I know I hadn't. I had not until I found myself in this phase of life. But how many of you had not heard of midlife transition? So you all had. So I was the only one that was kind of, I guess, Darlene said I have not. Yeah. Darlene, I had not heard of midlife transition myself. And so, Darlene, if you were like me, you probably showed up to say, well, to find out what is this phase? What is this midlife transition?
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Pearl said I'd heard of midlife crisis. Well, it could be. Maybe it all depends on how you approach it. It could be. But so midlife transition is a stage that comes with unique set of questions and opportunities. I like to think of it as rich opportunities. It's a period filled with profound self-discovery and reflection. This stage can be both challenging, though, and it can also be empowering. And it's that point in life where we often question our past achievements, aspirations, and life choices. It's a point in life, for the first time, we get to look at ourselves because we've gone through the young adult. We've gone through making a commitment. And now we're at that phase or that stage where we get to look at ourselves. So what is the essence of midlife transition? It's a transformative period that often involves reevaluating life's purpose, passions, and accomplishments. Does that make sense? It's a transformative period where you really start to look at your life and yourself differently. It's a stage and a phase of your life where you start to think about authenticity. Like when I was going through this phase, I knew there was more to my life. I had no idea how to approach moving forward. I had no idea some of the emotions or the questions I had, how to answer them or where they were even coming from, although they were internal. So as you think about the essence of midlife transition, how many of you can relate to this phase or stage? How many of you may be in the stage right now where you've been questioning your life? You know there's more to your life and you're unsure about how to move forward? Let me know. Put it in the chat, because this is where you really get the opportunity, right, to think about it and be open and honest with yourself. That's the whole purpose of this tonight. Karen said, I'm there now, Eva. Thanks for sharing that. Darlene, I'm at this point. I retired and a new purpose. Yeah, because you know there's more, right? You retired and you need a new purpose. Thanks, both of you, for sharing. So midlife transition is a pivotal stage. It's a time when we naturally pause to reflect on the past we've taken, the dreams we pursued, and the goals we've achieved. Here's what's interesting about the stage too, right? We look at the things that we've accomplished so far and we question at what cost? At what cost? Did we sacrifice our values, fulfillment? So it's a crucial turning point that offers a unique opportunity for self-discovery. This phase challenges us to redefine our dreams and our goals. It's a chance to ensure alignment with our current values and desires. Because again, if you think about it, you go back to young adult, you came out of college, right? You got a job, and a lot of us get jobs not even in the field that we studied when we were in college, right? But we had to pay the bills. And before we knew it, we were in this career, and it's not necessarily the path that we chose. That's kind of how our lives evolved. But now we find ourselves where we're ready to take hold and look at our lives from a different perspective, if that makes sense. So one of the key issues about midlife transition is really about embracing the uncertainties that come along with midlife transition. And it's vital to personal growth during this stage. Some people get stuck during this stage. I was stuck for a while. I didn't know how to move forward. And how many of you now may be at a stage in your life where you're stuck, right? But it's a phase where we must learn to embrace the unknown and use it as a source of deeper understanding. It's a phase and a time when you tap into the person within. And having questions and uncertainty is okay, because this may be the time where you're asking, what is it that I truly want for my life? Robin said, I was stuck for about 5 years ago. Yeah, so you can relate. And it's this phase where you start to think about, what do I truly want for my life? And am I on the path? Am I on the right path? Am I on the path to be happy and fulfilled? And some people, I said, become stuck. I was stuck, but I was so determined because I had this fire and this aching in my belly, right? And but for the grace of God, I was led. But some people, because of fear, because they don't have the support or the confidence, stay in this phase from an emotional perspective, right? So let's take a look at, let me move this around a little bit. Sitting here moving this around. So midlife transition often leads us to revisit our dreams and our values. And that was one of the first things that I did after some time. It wasn't instant, you know, after praying and running that lakefront. So I sat myself down and defined my top 5 values. And I'll tell you a secret. Most people cannot name their top 5 values in order of priority, because we don't think of it. We don't think of our lives that way. Most people, and I won't put you on the spot, but if there's anybody here that can, if you want to share it, it's okay. But most people can't. So think about this. If you are not making decisions and choices based on what's important to you, then what are you using as a compass to guide you? Are you just showing up every day? Something to think about. But midlife transition often leads us to revisit our dreams and our values. And it's in midlife transition, one way to think about it is having a blank canvas. Because now it's almost like I'm coming into my own, I'm stepping into my own, I'm taking responsibility for my life to be my authentic self and to be the person that I want to be, or the person that I want to become. Right? So how many of you have thought of your lives that way? How many of you have gotten to the point in your life where you start to revisit your dreams and your values? Or even question them? Robin said, I did. So you did the work. You went through the process, I call it, right? And it's really about reevaluating again to make sure that what you're pursuing or doing is what you truly want to do. So Renita she's got her 5 values out there. Sharon said, I believe I know my 5 values. Karen says, I'm reevaluating myself now. But I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I didn't know about midlife transition. And that's why in my research, when I saw this, I was like, okay, there's a name for it. So balancing priorities and opposing forces. And if you didn't download the workbook, please do, because you could use this as a guide, you know, to reflect on midlife transition and some of your own experiences and what significant changes or challenges have occurred. List the uncertainties and questions you face and how you can embrace personal growth. There are questions to help you think about your path, your life. Sharon, you raised your hand.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I had to admit that when I looked at midlife transition and being 67 years old, I said, I don't know if I'm in a midlife transition, transformation, or, you know, I feel like I'm in my golden age. And so I don't know what I am. I just think I'm beyond the midlife thing.
Okay. So where are you in life then? Like, what are some of the issues, some of the key issues that you're, or questions that that keeps popping up?
Is it time to retire?
Okay.
That pops up.
Okay.
But that's always in conflict with some other things. I like, if I go with, it's in conflict with the fact that I love my job still.
Mm-hmm.
I get joy from it. It's also a little bit of fear.
The unknown.
Fear of, yeah, I've been getting this paycheck every 2 weeks for 45 years. And so, ugh, not that I haven't saved and prepared, I have, but I think I have, that's what they tell me I have, but it's scary,
Yeah.
a little scary.
Yeah, that's uncertainty. But another way to look at it, and maybe you're not in midlife transition because you're not reassessing or reevaluating your life. You're not doing that. It doesn't sound like you are anyway. It doesn't sound like you're questioning whether or not you're fulfilled. It doesn't sound like you are questioning.
I wouldn't say even that in my totality, I am fulfilled. I wouldn't say that, but I could quickly tell you my values.
Okay. So you go
I
ahead.
value a relationship with God. I value who God is to me and who continues to sustain me. I value that.
Mm-hmm.
I value health and well-being. I go to the pool, but I also drink wine a lot, so that's another thing. But I value that.
Okay.
I value financial stability. I value that. I value my friends and my family. And I value traveling.
Right. Yeah.
My 5 things.
And here's the thing. When we think of transition periods, sometimes we want to put an age to it.
Okay.
And it's funny, one of my friends, I think she's on, we were talking about this the other day. And I feel like I'm still transitioning because I'm still evolving. I'm still challenging myself. I'm still learning. I'm still moving forward. I still question sometimes, am I pursuing my dreams? So I feel like I'm continuing to grow and evolve.
Yes. So in that case, it's not just midlife, it's right now. Now, I love Robin's answers. Hers were a lot richer than mine. Authenticity, balance, freedom. I want her, I like hers too.
But she's done the work. And I'm not saying you haven't, because if you go back, you'll see what Robin said. She was stuck, right? She's done the work.
Okay.
Well, it's the same thing with me. That's why I can name mine top 5 just like that and define them because I was stuck. I've done the work.
Eva, what are yours?
My relationship with God, helping other people, meaningful relationships, my own continued growth and development, and financial freedom.
Okay.
Darlene said, I'm stuck.
I'm not stuck, but I like yours too.
But see, this is about you.
I'm stuck. Maybe I'm stuck and don't know it.
But this is about you. This is about your journey. There are no right or wrong answers. It's about what do you want for you. And only you know that. So there are no right or wrong answers here.
Okay.
And the next phase beyond midlife transition is leaving a legacy. So it's a question of knowing what is fulfilling and meaningful to you.
Okay.
And maybe staying on that job is fulfilling and meaningful. And maybe to your point is the fear of what's next.
Mm-hmm.
That's keeping you there too. And if it's the fear of what's next that's keeping you there, then you owe it to yourself to do some internal soul searching. If you feel that you need to, because this is your journey. Only you know how you feel and what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
Okay. So in your workbook, there are some examples there about opposing forces. But this could also include concepts like immortality versus mortality. You start thinking about that in midlife transition, and I think it stays with you because once you start thinking about it, you start thinking about what is it that I want to leave behind? What is it that I want my legacy to be? Right? And then you start to also realize that there's limited time.
Mhm.
Another area or areas, behavior. During this period, you start looking at your own behavior. How are you behaving? What type of behavior patterns do you have? It's about harmony and balance too, your overall well-being. This is really about self-awareness. You know, are you the person with the destructive behavior? Are you open and receptive? Destructive? You jealous, mean, doing things, blaming other people? Yeah. And nurturing versus aggressiveness. This is a time when you really start to, again, reassess and reevaluate. Paula says the sense of purpose, knowing, accepting who you are the hard ones. But that's why this is such a rich, I think, stage of life. You get the opportunity to make changes because this is the first time where you are truly looking at your authentic self. And you get to decide who you want to become. I think it's this phase where you start thinking about, am I showing up my best? Am I doing my best? Am I being my best? And that carries on into legacy. So it's some hard question.
It is a hard question because am I being my best as it relates to my core values? Am I doing my best in terms of my relationship with God? Am I giving and doing and behaving at my best as it relates to my health and well-being? What best?
You define it. This is you.
But it needs to be connected to something. Best at what? I don't care
You.
if I'm not the best at tennis.
No,
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sharon.
So I need my best to be connected to something that matters to me, don't I?
Are you being the best person that you can be?
Okay.
Are you, here's a question, and you can write this down. Am I being the best version of myself? Does that help?
Yeah, it helps if I'm trying to be the best person that I can be.
Mm-hmm.
That means I'm demonstrating what? Kindness, generosity, fruits of the spirit kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. How does it feel? Well, let me ask a question. When you are demonstrating this type of behavior, how does it feel versus if you're being mean and selfish?
See, now, for me, selfish depends on the situation. I don't know if it's that I'm selfish or I'm just self-aware.
Well, here's the thing. You have the right to stand your ground,
Thank you.
but it's how you do it.
Right.
That's the question. It's how you do it.
It's the how, right?
It's
Yeah.
the how you do it. Yeah, I mean, you have the right to protect yourself, stand your ground. But are you doing it being nasty and mean? Are you doing it even in conversations, considering other people and their feelings? So I ask the question again. One way to look at it is to ask yourself, are you being the best version of yourself?
Hi.
May I get
Hello.
yes.
I'm sorry. My name is Charlotte Smith, and I did come on late, but I really like the way you asked that question because I've been doing, I guess you would say, healing. Um, I have grown children. I am 61 years of age, and I have 4 daughters. They're grown. And what I have recognized over the last 3 years, and COVID really kind of brought a lot of things out. in order for me to be my best self, I had to recognize what parts of me needed to be healed.
Hmm.
I could not communicate with them in a way, not only for them to be grown children, females with children, but also to leave them the legacy that I broke you because I was broken. And
Mm.
now I have to go back and repent to you for what I have done and then change the pattern. So some of that pattern is knowing when I had room, when they gave me room to speak into a situation or to share a suggestion. I even had to reflect on, how do I sound when I'm communicating with my grandchildren? Because what I recognize is that as a Black woman, we have a tendency to not recognize our voice intonation because we've always had to just be doing, 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 but we sound loud without meaning to be loud. We sound aggressive and assertive, even with our little ones, when that's not what we're really trying to get to them. And how I figured that out was, I was talking to one of my grandsons, and he was only 2 years old. And to me, I thought I was saying to him, "Oh, it's okay. You can go ahead and get out the water. It's not deep." And when I listened to it, I said it the other way. It is not deep. That
Mm.
told me that I had brokenness in me from all the experiences of my lifetime. That's how I sounded when my children were growing up. And I had to catch that. But I had to also go to the Most High and ask him, show me your truth so that I don't leave my kids as damaged goods. Because you are the ones who see to the solidarity of the family. And I don't want to leave anybody broken, although we all are, but I have to do my part. And now I'm at that space where I'll say to my children, I don't want to trigger you, so stop me if it's starting to bother you. I will say those words because I want to be able to have a healthy communication with all young people, not just my daughters, but even with a young person out in the street. I don't want to walk up to them and say, stop doing such so because you such. I want to say, how you doing? Yeah, I see what you're doing, and I think you can do a little better because I just don't want you to hurt yourself. Because they bite back because they feel like we're so judgmental, and we
Right.
are.
And I hate to do this, but I'm going to ask you ladies, when you speak, if you could just come on camera. Karen, I know you
Okay.
have your hand raised. And this
Okay.
is just women hanging out here. I mean,
Okay.
nobody cares about how you look. It's just us. We're sitting here just trying to be
Okay.
best versions of ourselves, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Karen, you raised your hand. Go ahead. You may be muted, Karen.
Let me turn my video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say you would say that when I want to speak to come on camera, right?
But that's okay. It's just us. I mean, and this is part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I find that women need,
Mhm.
from my coaching and doing workshops, women need or ask for a supportive environment where they can be their authentic selves.
Yeah, I'm really understanding and feeling what Charlotte was just saying, because I find myself as well apologizing to my children, from the way that I brought them up, things that I exposed them to, and I excuse me, and I didn't raise them in the church. So there was a lot of brokenness, as she stated, that was passed on, in even in their relationships, and so you try to advise them or guide them and stuff, but you look back over your life as well. Well, I look back over mine and I see where I went wrong with them. But now I'm at the point to where I'm trying to correct me and find out what's going on with me and where do I want to go. And financial stability is, on my list. Spiritual relationship with God, and that's really what I'm struggling with right now, is to have a relationship with God, because I want to know what it is that God created me for. I want to know what my purpose is, that He put me here. That am I walking the path that God has for me? And that's my struggle. What's inside of me? What did He create me for? So I just wanted to thank her, for a testimony, because yeah, I really felt what she was saying. So that's all.
And you have the answers. Like, remember I said I was seeking my purpose? But you have the answers. Now, I ended up in coaching school, and that was the beginning of my journey, because I was seeking my purpose. But now I know what my purpose is. It took a lot of work, because one of the things, I had become an emotional prisoner, holding myself hostage. Like so many of us, I suppressed all of my emotions to the point where I lost myself. So I had to, all these emotions. I had this internal cup, and I kept putting all my emotions in the cup. Well, guess what? Eventually it spills over, which is so powerful. That was one of the most powerful things that could have happened to me, right? Because that began my journey of self-discovery. So one of the things you could do, number one, know what your top 5 values are, keep praying, and think about, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that makes you feel good? And when you're doing it, you're making a difference, right? You're making a difference. You're helping other people. So just think about it. And sometimes we are so busy looking outside for the answers, because that's what I was doing. I didn't know anything about what I know now. But think about what you're passionate about and listen. That's the other thing. Listen to that still small voice. It will talk to you. But sometimes we have so much noise going on in our lives that we miss it. Sharon, how you doing up there? I see you got your hand on your head. You're muted, Sharon. You have to unmute.
I'm thinking, quite candidly, I'm thinking about something that Paula wrote there, where she said, self-awareness is not part of the equation. And I don't think I agree with that. But I'm just thinking, I might be a little beyond what am I passionate about? Because I'm not sure that today, at whatever time it is, I'm not sure what I'm passionate about today. So.
Well, are you seeking your life purpose, though? I mean, so you may be okay with where you are. I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely am seeking purpose.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of burned out from the purpose everybody thinks is my purpose.
Okay. All right.
Tell me what my purpose is, right? But I'm kind of burned out from what people believe is my purpose. And so I don't know. I'm in a quandary, kind of. But I know that me being aware of myself is important. I know that me taking care of myself, I don't feel like I have the spirit of help anymore.
The spirit, what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
The spirit of help.
Help. Okay.
You said you think you're supposed to help people.
Yeah.
I'm kind of burned out from it.
From helping people.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Do you mind if I ask, if I probe?
No.
How do you help people?
I do a few things in that area. First of all, I mentor junior level professionals where I work, burned out from it completely. I also am an internal consultant responsible for assisting managers and leaders in building high performance teams. I'm sick of them too. they don't necessarily listen and, don't really want to change, not necessarily want to do their part, want
Mhm.
to blame somebody else. I'm also responsible I'm a professor at our corporate university. It's a proprietary university. So I enjoy that, but I just have lost temporarily the spirit of help. And
Mm. Okay.
because I want to walk with God, I want to talk with God, I want to bless God, and I want Him to be proud of me.
Mhm.
I know that I must have the spirit of help.
Mhm.
I must.
Mm. And maybe this is a good time for you to do some self-reflection. Like, what do you want? Maybe this is the time for you to think about it and just begin by writing it on paper. What is it that I truly want for myself?
Mhm. I agree.
Yeah. Because you have to start somewhere, right?
Oh, of course.
You have to start someplace. And maybe this is the time where you start. Because what's interesting, when I worked for Allstate, I always helped other people as well. But
Uh-huh.
this is a whole different level now,
Uh-huh. Sure it
right?
is.
Because it's a different time in my life. So maybe a place to start is asking yourself, what do you want? Just write it on paper and ponder it.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're at that point where it's about empowering your life transition. So if you didn't download the workbook, right? One of the things that I would ask you to think about is just think about one commitment you can make. Just from listening tonight, what is one commitment that you will make for the next month? Anybody want to share? Put it in the universe. Paula said many people do not know what doing. Paula, you're typing verses coming on the screen, but I'm gonna read it, okay? Many people do not know what doing the work means. Self-awareness is not part of the equation, so self-improvement that is constructive, nurturing is not conscious behavior. Paula, you want to come on and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, could she expound on that for me?
Come on, Paula. Because it begins with self-awareness. If you want to make any changes, anything, it all begins
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
self-awareness.
I'm sorry. I was on, but I was on mute. I was on video, but on mute. I think that, when we're talking, there's all kind of different aspects of self-awareness.
Mm.
And so when people, myself included, we may say, I know what I want
Mm-hmm.
versus, it's like we're saying, do you know what you want? There are times when folks will say, well, I know what I need. I know what's important to me. I know what I'm good at. I know what people think I'm good at. But if you really say yes, yes, but in terms of like purpose, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Of course, I want to please God. I want to be helpful to others. But just really pondering,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want? Just like when Sharon is saying, well, does that need to be connected to, what I'm good at, what I do, what secures me financially? So, your purpose may not connect with your talents and your gifts. So sometimes and within that, it sounds contrary, but I think that self-awareness in a much more singular way and this concept of what's, I think is probably, we have a lot of very motivated, professional, talented people. So we know what we are good at. We know what others appreciate. We know what is going to help us secure the things that, many of us talked about, our financial needs and securing those things. And the balance was really like, and also, sort of this pleasing God and also helping people, servant leader. But when we talk about just, self, and that aspect of self, the id, the ego, what is it, that I want? I want this. So when you started talking about, I had something in my belly, there's something I want. Not just that I need to be secure. I, know it's important to serve God and help other people, but this is what I want. This is just in me, wherever it came from. This is what I want.
Mhm.
Most of us aren't comfortable really sitting there with that, other than, we may say, well, I want to travel. I want to be secure in my job. I want my family to be happy. But just like, this is something that I really want.
Mhm.
Wherever it comes from, I'm in tune, I'm aware of it at that level. I wake up, it's important to me. That is very uncomfortable place to sit for a while. And so, your question was, what might I commit to thinking about or working or doing the work on? I think it's just really sitting with that aspect, even as uncomfortable as it may be, about what do I want?
Right. And Charlotte, I'm going to come to you, but it's all about perspective too. So when you sit and think about, and this is how I think about it, what do I want in terms of my life purpose? I'm seeking my life purpose, believing that my life has meaning, believing that there's more that I should be doing, believing that to make a difference. So it's all about perspective. So from my seat, and even from a coaching perspective, when we talk about purpose, it's about how you can use your innate skills and ability and talents to help somebody else and make a difference. It's not about ego. Charlotte.
Well, it's okay to have ego. And that's another aspect that we're really uncomfortable with. There in terms of leadership and things that most of the folks on this call have, there are very few leaders without ego. The thing of saying, hey, here's what I use my talents and gifts and whatever, your talents and your gifts, may not may be in a different kind of alignment. They may have some parallel paths, whatever, but your talents, your gifts, we talk about time, talent, treasure, the way we give,
Right.
may be very different than what we have been given.
Most definitely.
The
And a lot
what
of
I
us,
want, the who I am.
right.
Who I am may be different, what I've been given and who I am innately. Accepting who I am, even if I may not understand, like whatever, is sometimes different than what our gifts and talents are. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with that?
Yeah. Or with Paula, to even go further, to the extent that how we're using them. There are so many people, think about this really quickly. There are so many people that have dreams and aspirations when they're young. And because somebody tells them they can't do it, they bury those dreams and aspirations and they end up doing something else. Right? But they still have that desire and that yearning. And sometimes it could be midlife transition. There are people who have left corporate jobs, right? And do things for nonprofit organizations because they feel that's their calling, that's their purpose, but they've been thrown into this other position because society, or that's just the course they took, not realizing, okay, that is not my purpose, my passion, or what I want to be doing.
Darlene has had her hand up for a while.
No, Charlotte had hers up first.
Oh, okay.
Charlotte, where did you go? And then Darlene, I'll
I'm
come.
right here.
And Darlene, you know you got to come back on camera when you talk. Go ahead, Charlotte.
When what I've found out within the last 4 years, and as you stated, knowing your purpose is all perspective, but there's a lot of distractions in our world. And we have been taught wrongfully of the things to go after in this land of our captivity. And so because we are here, we still compare ourselves to the to what we have been taught. We have compared ourselves to getting what this country has stated to us we need to get. And then when we go to church, we hear about another type of purpose. And I just believe that the Most High is saying to us, I need for you all to get quiet. I am isolating you to bring you in that place where I brought your father Moses to the burning bush. I don't believe that we are quiet enough to where we can get to that burning bush and he says, yes, you got that degree, but that wasn't what I was calling you to do. And now that you're quiet, I can really lead you into how to do that. But while even Moses was at that burning bush for 40 days and 40 nights, there was a process of healing that was even going on with him for being in Egypt and having to kill somebody. And we really don't understand a lot of the dynamics of why repentance is important for getting us healed, why repentance is important for saying, it's not what I want, but your will be done. What is your will for me? I don't know what your loving me looks like because I'm not in the promised land. My ancestors were in the promised land, but you said you're coming back to get us to the promised land. Then prepare me now. What does that look like, Father? I want to know. We don't know what love looks like in a marriage relationship, what it's supposed to look like, because it's perverted here. Dating shouldn't be so hard for our young children, but everything is perverted in this land, and they taught us wrongfully. And now I believe that the Most High is unraveling everybody, and he's tugging and he's pulling and he's saying, I need for you to get quiet. I really need for you to hear my Holy Spirit, because you have been on this path so long and you have been getting wrecked, and I need for you to stop. Just stop. Because now your purpose is to hear me better so that I can get you there. But it's so many distractions. We got to go to work. You know what I'm saying? There's sicknesses that come up. There's bills that has to be paid. And it's hard to get to that rest point. And that's another place where we have to cast our care. We have to guard our heart, to guard our peace and say, I'm going to sit still for an hour. I'm going to sit still for 15 minutes because I need to hear you. I'm going to repent and just let you tell me the truth of what I need. And I'm not going to tell you what I want because I want you to tell me what I need. And that's what I've been feeling like for all of us, especially women, that he's just been trying to birth in us a whole new seed of stop. I'm here. I'm just waiting for you to know. I'm waiting for you to know that I am willing to love you, but you don't know what that love feels like because you're too distracted.
And that's such a great point. It all starts with just being still and tapping into that person within. But you have to be ready, right?
Yep.
You have to be at that point of your life where you know that's part of the process, because you have all the answers, right? They're in. So that's part of it. Darlene, you have to come on camera. And Robin,
Yes.
you have to come on camera too.
Okay, so I was just listening, and I do agree with what Charlotte was saying. And a lot of times, our fate, our purpose, is guided through our upbringing. So with me, I always felt like I had to teach and work with young people. And I couldn't wait to, go through all the process. I did all that. I put my 30 years into the system, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And now, since retirement, it's like my purpose has changed. I don't know what it is anymore because I'm not in the atmosphere. I try to go back and sub and do some guidance and stuff like that. But I think what Charlotte was saying, I need to ask God and just sit and listen to say, where are you taking me? And I heard this thing that said, someone said, don't ask him why, but where to.
Mhm.
And so to me, for the next few weeks, months, whatever, I want to work on self-discovery.
Right.
Because through all my life's transition, I feel like I'm at a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
So
long have you been retired, Darlene?
almost 2 years.
Mm.
Almost 2 years. And it's like, but like I said, I feel like there's something else missing in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not fulfilled.
Right. No,
And I know work is not designed to fulfill you. So it has to come from within. And I
Mhm.
think I believe and I know that's what's missing. It's what's within that's missing.
Right. But to Charlotte's point too, you have to be willing to do the work, and it's hard. It's emotional. You have to be able to let go, right? A lot of the things that we've been doing, for survival. I call it pure survival. And we have to be able to let go, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be receptive. And we're taught to be open and vulnerable as weak. So it's
Right.
hard. It's a journey. It's a process. And that's why I say it all the time. Life is a process of evolution, but you have to be willing to make that journey, to do the work.
Thank you.
Robin, I think your hand is up. And you have to come on camera. She knows. Robin, you're muted. You have to unmute.
I'm sorry. Am I on camera now?
Yeah, I can't see you, but I know you're there.
I know, because I had very little light on because I was just trying to listen and, well, I was going to say for myself, I really agree a lot with, what everybody's saying, especially Charlotte. And is it Charlotte or Charlene? Charlene. Anyway,
Charlotte? I think it's
Mhm.
Charlotte.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's
And
Charlotte. Yes.
okay. And I think to some extent the way that we're socialized here, in a lot of instances, when you become a professional person, you take on this, not you. Sometimes I'll speak from me. I'll try to keep it in the I statements, but for me, I was in construction and engineering, and there was a certain rough edge, so to speak, that I had to um encase myself in to some extent. And I saw how it shifted me a little bit as a person. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I always say one of the things I like about entrepreneurship is that in most instances I can choose who I want to do business with. I'm going to be the first to know that I ain't got no money or I got money. Okay. And I can determine for the most part how I want to show up. And so one of the things that for me that I released was this whole notion of like Black excellence. Not that I don't want to be my best self, but my best self is not, I have decided some years ago that my best self is not what this society says your best self has to be.
Right.
I have, decided that if things are not centered around ease, love, and joy, I'm not trying to entertain it. I'm not trying to engage with it. And that's really hard, in this country and especially in Chicago,
Mm.
because that's where we live. And And I think that for me, when I was doing my work, I just had to really buckle down and decide how my gifts, talents, passions aligned, how it aligned with society, and how it aligned with my inner self, the essence of who I am.
Mhm.
And I found that there was some vast differences. And I just decided that I wasn't going to engage in certain ways. And that took a lot of work for me. And I had to practice being quiet. And I still go through periods where I practice being quiet because I know this mouth. Okay. I know this mouth. Um, Trying to do more meditation, listening, because I pray, but for me, like prayer's asking. So, I'm always asking God for something. But I really try to spend more time listening so that I can get direction. And sometimes the direction is not anything like what Robin cerebrally would do,
Right.
but I have to make that decision. Am I going to move the way that God said for me to move, or am I going to move the way that people think I should move because of this, that, and a third? And that's a really hard space to be in when you need certain levels of interconnection or interdependency with other people. So I don't know. For me, when I was doing my work, I just had to really decide what I was going to be true to. Um, and I just had to choose myself. And now I turned 60 in September, and I can honestly say my son is 32. I got married 4 years before he was born. So for 36 of these years, was taking care of everybody else's needs superseded my own.
Mm.
And then, when my dad was ill, I stopped everything and took care of him. Then when he transitioned, which was 5 years ago, I found that's when I realized that I have been taking care of people so long that I let so many things slide for myself.
Mhm.
And so now I'm rather um, unapologetically and radically into my own self-care, self-love. And it doesn't mean that I can't be impactful or loving to other people, but I just had to get to this space where, like I said, if it wasn't centered around my ease, love, and joy, I had to separate myself from it in certain ways that I may not have done in the past.
Mhm.
And so I guess with all of that said, um, it's just takes time. And I noticed that the point that Charlotte was making about um us as Black women in a lot of ways, the way we speak to each other, the way we speak to people sometimes, like she was giving the examples, and I could relate to some of her examples. Um, there's just a certain, I don't want to, okay, how can I say? Okay, right now in society, everybody wants to be a bad bitch, a boss bitch, or this kind of boss and all that. And that's just not important to me. Um, and I think that with that sometimes brings that whole bitch energy, and that's not going to help me. And it doesn't help the people around me or the people in my neighborhood. Um, there's sometimes when I see people and in my mind, I'm like, what in the hell? But I don't say that. I'll say, oh my goodness, what do we have here? Well, what's going on? I try to give people an opportunity to speak and be heard, because that's part of part of the Black problem is that, like, we don't feel that we're being heard often. And so I try to give people the opportunity to be heard, and I try to soften my words and be more nurturing
Right.
than disciplinary, you know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And what you're talking about, Robin, and what Charlotte was talking about and Darlene is being intentional.
being more intentional.
Being more
Yeah.
intentional. Being, you know, because when you start working on yourself, when you start doing that internal work, when you start seeking answers about purpose and how your life can be more meaningful and your life can be more fulfilling, it's really about starting to live more intentional, being aware of what you're saying, how you're approaching people, to your point, nurturing versus aggressive, right? It's about being intentional, but it starts with being still and listening.
Yeah, I think being still, listening, and then when you get a vision or an idea, you know, write it down. It may not be for today,
Right.
you
Right.
know, it might be for 2 years from now, or 4 weeks from now. But when we write, well, for me, when I write them down, and I refer to them, then I'll say, oh, I remember that. It's coming. Come on, God. Let's go. Let's roll, ancestors. Come on, Orishas, angels, spirit warriors, everybody. Let's come on, y'all. And so I think that sometimes our timing or our level of patience with ourselves, I need to work with that, or I have worked with that in the past. And so I don't know. I'm just saying, for me personally, I just I just have an idea of the things that I want and the things that are related to my radical self-discipline, on ease, love, and joy, and then my 5 um essences that I'm trying to hold dear to. Yeah.
So that's good. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do, you ladies to do. Write down one commitment for the next month. Just write down one. One commitment. Even if it's just sitting and spending more time. One that you will commit to. You can write it in your workbook, just write it on the paper. What is one commitment that I'm going to commit to for the next 30 days? What actions will you take? I'm going to move us along. This has been great conversation. So what's next? Right? One of the things that I want to share with you, first of all, one of the things I want to share with you, first of all, this was the second of 3 masterclasses. And this one here is focusing on midlife transition and going forward. And the next phase, as you know, is leaving a legacy. So what I want to do, I'm going to share with you a 13-week program that I'm going to launch at the beginning of the year. I'm just going to go over it real quickly with you. And if you're interested, you can go on the waiting list. And if you're not, that's fine. Still come back for the next 3rd one, right? So I decided to create a 13-week program to empower women really to embrace life with passion so that they can live and be their authentic self, because I know what it feels like to want more. And I know what it feels like to not even be able to have the type of conversation and get the support to be when you're working towards being your authentic self. So the program is about empowering women to embrace life fearlessly. It's a 13-week program. It's virtual. We will meet weekly, virtually for 13 weeks. Actually, 1 week I think we have on. And it's designed for women navigating the crossroads of self-reflection, that's seeking a new perspective and just yearning for deeper meaning and expression of themselves. And it's connecting midlife transition to leaving a lasting legacy. And as you know, we talked about this at the beginning, midlife transition is not just a phase, it's a stepping stone to the next chapter. And I happen to think that I'm still in midlife transition and legacy because I continue to evolve and grow. And the program will guide you through this journey of self-discovery and explore the connections between the two. So if you're interested, I am going to, what I'm going to do is post I'm going to stop screen share, and I'm going to post the link in chat. But I want you to save this date as well. You will get the notice for the next masterclass. It will be December 13th. I think that's exactly 1 month from today. And I wanted to, of course, share with you my favorite quote by Maya Angelou. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some compassion, some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. She is one of my all-time favorites. I am going to drop the link if you are interested. Stop screen sharing here. I thought I just did. Okay, let's go back. Well, I did good until the end, right? I made it until the end. All right, here it is. I just want to take this link. If you're interested in learning more or just getting on the wait list, copy, come back here. Let me find this. Okay, this is it. If you're interested, I'm going, again, launch it. And that's the link if you're interested. Just get on the wait list. But remember, December 13th, that's the third masterclass. Whether you're interested in the 13-week program or not, please come back for the masterclass. This has been some really, really good conversation. Anybody have any questions or comments, anything? How are you feeling? Was this conversation helpful? Are you ladies tired or quiet? I mean, quiet, or you just had enough?
I had to get off my laptop and come on my phone. So if you don't see me, I apologize. I missed a good portion, but I was, as you can see, able to follow where I came in. I am looking forward to the December 13th masterclass and any future courses that you may have. It's, in my way of seeing things in my own perspective, it's a purging time. It's where we're being changed without having too much of our own say. It feels like the Most High lets you go as far as you can, and then he says, now it's my turn.
Okay.
You know, it's like I'm 61 now. My children are grown. I have 9 grandchildren, but not to repeat the savior complex. Whereas I feel like I have to be doing something for somebody, or I have to make the result of a circumstance or event. I have to orchestrate it in a way where I get the results I want. I really need to take more hold of the scripture that says that he knows our beginning and our ending. And so I need to know exactly where I begin, even if it's with my children, and where I end.
Right.
We all have grace, and I believe he gives us grace to raise sure he give us grace to help. And then we have to know when that grace, he says, enough, I'm taking you on this other side. So
Right.
I believe that that's part of this transformation we're going through now in our transitioning time.
Awesome. I'm trying to put this in the general chat, and I'm having, okay, because someone messaged me directly. Now it wants to send directly message her, but let me see if I do it this way. I'm trying to, Carolyn, I just sent it to you. I'm trying to send it to everyone in the meeting. There it is. So if you're interested in going, there it is. I figured it out. If you're interested in getting on the waiting list for the program that I'm going to launch in January, please go ahead and get on the waiting list. There'll be some incentives if you get on the waiting list, but I'm really excited about it. Just can you imagine bringing women together for 13 weeks, just talking about midlife transition and leaving a legacy, but having the support and the tools to navigate that conversation. It's my purpose-driven passion, so I'm really excited about it. Karen, I think your hand was raised from before, and Darlene, yours was raised from before, so.
I just wanted to just say,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say thank you, because it was very enlightening, and to know that I'm not feeling, I'm not the only one feeling this way. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to the 13-week program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Darlene, did you have your hand raised, or was it raised from before?
It was a mistake. I was trying to hit the chat.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm. But I can say thank you for this time
Yeah.
and all the new perspectives. It's like it's an awakening.
Yeah. That's what I call that phase, midlife transitioning, awakening.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. First of all, thank all of you ladies for joining me. I truly appreciate it. But here's the thing. I didn't know what I didn't know when I was going through this phase of midlife transition. But I think one of the most important things to remember too is that you're not alone. I mean, you're really not alone. There's so many of us go through it. We don't even realize we're going through it. A lot of us go through it and we don't have the support. So we struggle. We really struggle. So thank you for attending. Unless anybody have any questions or suggestions or anything else, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully I'll see you back here on December 13th. And again, the link is in the chat if you are interested in getting on the waiting list for the 13-week program. So with that being said, Carolyn, you raising your hand? You're on mute. Did you raise your hand? No, Carolyn, you're still on mute. Oh, okay. Well then, thank you ladies so much. I truly appreciate you. Love and blessings. Have a great night.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.